Hello everybody, my name is Ratnos, and welcome to Cinderbrew Meadery, a very cool dungeon, where I also unfortunately learned that, something about Frost DK with Rider of the Apocalypse, when you pop all your CDs, seems to just lag out and crash the everything. Like, look at this here, this, DC'd all of us, and, it was not good here. Look, you can see everybody's running in place, DCing, so... learned that at least on alpha right now, you're not allowed to play Frosty K. Maybe something with the damage splitting on all of your horsemen or something. I don't know. So let's skip ahead to when we instead got in here on a Windwalker, which was what I decided to do that dungeon on instead. This dungeon is extremely cool. So you start off walking in to a big open room with a bunch of patrolling mobs. Most of these mobs don't do too much. There is a walking chef there, the like ogre chef that you can see. That mob has some important abilities, but most of this other stuff is just big AoE, pow pow, pop CDs, blow stuff up, try not to die. Chef Chewy there does have some mechanics you got to watch out for. High stakes cast there that I think is just beating up your tank, and actually throwing those stakes that you got to dodge at everybody as well. Chef's seasoning, which I think is like a dot that's being put on people. I think it's going to kill me here. And also throw chair is something the hired muscles are casting. And then there's stomps that are knocking everybody back as well. A lot of stuff going on this pull if you try and pull everything, but it does seem like that's pretty feasible to just walk in. Over in the corner here, you can see there's a little pot with which you can interact as well. That one requires cooking or alchemy 25, and then you get something. I don't know. I wasn't a cook or an alchemist, so hopefully not something too important. I kind of hate it whenever there's something super valuable you can get from kind of profession buffs in M+, but it does seem like at least they are continuing with that in here. But it's cooking or alchemy, which at least everybody can have cooking, right? So that one shouldn't be too restrictive. So then we pulled the other side of the room here, a similar kind of thing. These knockbacks make it pretty easy to accidentally like ninja pull stuff on the sides, but you do want to make sure that you clear most of this room, because you do kind of need the space to fight the first boss in. Now, the hired muscles are the main mobs that actually do anything. They do those stomps, they do the knockbacks in these pulls. Most of the other mobs are kind of filler in this area. But yeah, now it is time for the first boss, Brewmaster Aldrir. This boss doesn't have too much going on. Does keg smash on your tank, which just knocks him back, and then starts putting little expanding, slowy, damagey puddles. Throws Cinderbrew, which just throws brew at players. That creates little expanding puddles. And Blazing Belch, which is just a frontal that you don't want to stand in. And then it just kind of repeats those ability for a little bit. And then he goes and gets behind the bar, gets a big old damage reduction, and puts out 5 brews. And what you need to do is you need to take a brew to each of the patrons that wants a brew, or else they start getting mad at you, they start doing damage to you, and they start reducing your haste. So you want to make sure that you get brews to all of them. Once you get all 5 patrons their brews, then you can keep damaging the boss here, and it just keeps cycling through those abilities for the remainder of the encounter. So not too complicated of a first boss. It does die fairly quickly after you get through that first intermission. There you can see the Blazing Belch as well. No ill effects aside from taking some damage. I'm testing stuff here and also using touch Karma, so that's why I'm standing in all that stuff. Anytime you see me make any mistakes during these runs as well, it is for testing purposes too. You got to make sure you remember that. But yeah, okay, so after that, then the door to the left opens up. And this is kind of an interesting dungeon. Actually, it looks like both the left and the right doors open up. And you can go either to the B wing or the beer wing. And you go around in each of the wings and you clear them, and then a door opens right up after the boss to let you back into that main first room. So it's a pretty kind of confined dungeon, even though it's 4 bosses. Both of the side wings take you back to the very first area of the dungeon, and the last boss is basically right there as well once you've done the side wings. Now in this area, you have these failed batches that are being put out. Those need to be killed or else they do huge raid damage. So you want to make sure that you stop those from happening. You can actually stop them from being put out as well with stuns on these mobs. And then these hobgoblins they'll do this ability called Reckless Delivery, where they'll look at somebody, they'll fix themselves on that direction, and then they will charge at that person, and they'll keep going until they hit a wall. So you kind of want everybody to be baiting these charges to a nice nearby wall rather than all the way down the hallway. And particularly in the room later, you want to make sure that you don't aim them in front and then pull extra trash with that. So you do have to be careful with that. But you can see here people casting failed batch. That's what's going to spawn the little failed batch behind us that I missed there. But other people are going back and killing those failed batches before they explode and do some pretty big damage to the group if they do. There's one you can see that's failed batch. DPS check on them wasn't too tight in M0, but is something you want to try and avoid. And then, yeah, the hobgoblins just keep doing their charges. You can see there what a little bit of a longer charge looks like, a little bit kind of awkward. And then they stun themselves when they hit the wall. Not too complicated of a mechanic. When they do hit a wall, they spawn 2 of these brew drops, and when they die, they spawn like 6 of them. And the brew drops kind of beat up your tank, but otherwise don't do too much. And when they die, they leave behind puddles of brew, which are just like the first boss, where they kind of slow you down. So we got another couple pulls like this. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. A couple more taste testers, pyromaniacs. Then you get into this room here, this boss room. And this has several hobgoblins, taste testers. Again, the same mobs we already saw. But you got to be careful here because you don't want to bait a hobgoblin into charging forward like I'm doing right now, right? I'm standing on the wrong side of these hobgoblins. So if they picked me to be their reckless delivery target, then they would go on a big adventure and pull a bunch of trash that we wouldn't want pulled. There you can see that big damage is if those exploding brews, those failed batches actually go off, which did happen to us there. Killed the other DPS in the group. Luckily, I somehow survived. And here's what it looks like if a reckless delivery goes long, right? You can see it just charges forward, and that's going to add some trash now when that thing comes running back at us. So you got to make sure you bait those, because they lock in their direction when they start their cast, which you do not want that. Okay, so kill a couple more trash packs in here. Again, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because these are all just the same mobs we've already seen. There's exploding brews, big damage. I died because I was testing to see if I would die if I wasn't standing in the Spirit Link totem there. Turns out you do. That was an important test. The run back as well here. It seems like the dungeon never updates your graveyard here, but at least you never have that. Like, this is the worst the run back gets in here, which is probably about a minute of a run back if you don't have any movement speed increases, which I'm playing a monk. So I have a reasonable amount of movement speed increase with my roll double jump thing. I could get back pretty quickly. Okay, this is the next boss. This is IPA, the beer boss. And it doesn't do too much. It does some rage damage. It does some swirlies that you gotta dodge. And it'll create ads that need to be stopped from reaching it. So you can see those red swirlies are where the ads are spawning. And those ads will just start slowly walking towards IPA. So you just want to make sure you move the boss so that they're all on the same side of it. And then you keep them CC'd, get them grouped up, and kill them. Sort of similar to the last boss of Ataldazar, first boss of King's Rest, right? Where it's like ads. If they reach the boss, they instead just put a big old shield on him. You can see we test that here. We test to see what happens. It just, puts a big shield on the boss. It looks like it did some raid damage as well. But it's not the end of the world, I guess, on normal difficulty. But presumably that's something you really don't want to have happen. Other than that, it seemed like a pretty tank and spank thing on normal difficulty. It is worth noting, in all of these dungeons, they're being run on normal, so there may well be significant mechanical changes that happen not just over the course of alpha and beta, but when mythic difficulty and heroic difficulty get applied to these dungeons, which we weren't able to test them on. So make sure you're taking everything that I say about these fights with a grain of salt, because even if they are final, which most of them aren't, I think, they will have mechanical twists that come with those higher difficulties. Okay, so after you finish IPA, you head back into this first boss room, because that extra side door opened, and now you can head over to the bee wing. Now, the bee wing has a bunch of bees in it, and they kind of love stinging you and killing you. When they get low, they cast Final Sting, which can be stunned, but if you don't kill them before they finish Final Sting, or if you don't stun them, then they will murder you. There's other ads here. So there's this brand ambassador that does free swag, which is an AoE like fan of knives around it, that also increases your damage taken from subsequent free swags. There's also mobs here that cast Bee Steel Wrath that I think amps all nearby bees damage. Then the worker bees will they'll do these dots on you if they're hitting you. And also they will do the Final Sting as they get low, which does a bunch of damage if you don't stun them or kill them before it's over. And yeah, there's some swirlies to dodge that I think they'll slow you if you get hit by them, which can make it harder to dodge one of the other abilities from the brand ambassadors, which is called Career Stagnation, which is a big AoE stun if you get hit by it. So here's the brand ambassador. Let's see if we can see this happening here. So this is a big pull. This has like all the mechanics here. Honey Volley needs to get stopped here or else it slows you. So you can see we all get slowed. Makes it more likely we're going to get hit by the swirlies. And then anybody who's inside that AoE from the Career Stagnation from the brand ambassador gets stunned for like 3 seconds, which is not nice. So pretty nasty area, actually. A lot of important abilities from these mobs, but the flavor is just phenomenal, obviously, right? Brand ambassadors casting Career Stagnation, absolutely love it. Fantastic part there. Bestial Wrath here being cast, Beezooka being cast as well by the Bee Wrangler. So yeah, here's the final sting. Okay, let's see if we let this one go off. Nope. Okay, we Fel Eruptioned it. So yeah, in one of my other runs, we tested what happens if you let that thing goes off, and yeah, it turns out it does quite a bit of damn. Here, once you walk in, you get ambushed by like 40 bees, which you want to be careful of because they start stacking up that dot on your tank quite a bit. So tank gets in some danger here, I think, pretty easily. I use Ring of Peace to try and help prevent this from killing him. And yeah, then it's just a couple more pulls of the same type. So once again, I will use the forward arrow here and skip through a little bit of these pulls to just have those same enemies we've already talked about. And yeah, you get to this little area, a couple more enemies, another brand ambassador, some more mobs over off to the side. You can skip these ones, this brand ambassador over here. Presumably you won't need this unless you want it for count. It's hiding in a little corner. And then you get to this kind of big boss room area. So you get to this big boss room area, and it has a big bee in the middle. Bank Buzzbee is riding that bee. So first off, you want to clear out the room because you do want access to most of the room for this boss fight. Here's me getting hit by everything. You want to try and avoid that if you can. You want to try and not get hit by everything, but then you kill off this trash. You can kill off the bees over to the side before you kill the boss. That's what we decide to do here. I think you could avoid pulling these if you wanted to during the fight, but just safer to get rid of them first, I think. So, or maybe you could just take them into the boss as well. And then you're into Bank Buzzbee. So Bank summons 3 barrels for us, at least on normal. It summons 3 barrels. The way these barrels work is that each barrel will spawn an ad every 30 seconds. It'll spawn a bee every 30 seconds. The first one spawns almost instantly, and then 30 seconds later, if you haven't dealt with that barrel, more bees will spawn. Now, the way that you deal with the barrels is you kill the bees, and each time you kill a bee, it will become, like, mountable. It'll turn into a body that you can mount, and then you aim it at the barrels, and you can then press your 1 button to shoot it at a barrel. And you can actually hit multiple barrels with 1 shot if you line it up right, which means that then you can use the previous spawn's bees to deal with the next spawn's barrels. But yeah, here's what this looks like, right? Aim at some barrels, and then, yeah, this is not actually what you're supposed to do. I kind of didn't get it, but aim at some barrels, then you press 1, and you can see I took out some of the barrels with that bee charge. Then other than that, use just puddles you want to not stand in. The bees are putting out nasty dots here, so it's kind of healing intense. You want to make sure that you get these barrels killed so you don't fall behind and have too many bees out. And then other than that, you're just kind of killing the boss and trying not to get hit by all of the ground. The ground effect actually does a lot of damage here every time it does that. So this fight was pretty nasty. I think of the fights, definitely a scary one. It does this fluttering wing, which knocks you back as well, so you got to make sure you don't get knocked into any of the gunk on the ground as well. And this whole time as well, you have bees just jumping at you, doing big damage to both your tank and the entire group. So you can see even with a healer here, we aren't all topped on normals. This fight definitely did a lot of group damage to us. Okay, once you've killed both Bank Buzzbee and IPA, then you move on to the last boss, which is Goldie Baronbottom. So you can take the beeline here, these bees, up to the last boss room, which is right just overlooking the first boss room. And in here, you get to kill 4 yes men first before you fight the boss. And they have some ability called like Downward Trend that does damage to you if you get hit by it, I think. But otherwise, they're just kind of some free trash that you pick up before you can actually fight the last boss. Who is the BEO, I guess, of this particular establishment. So again, the flavor is phenomenal in here. Very cool dungeon design from that perspective. It looks like when one of them dies, the others maybe get some kind of buff as well. So these yes men, they all say, I agree when you kill them too. So that's cool. So then you have the last boss here, the BEO herself. This boss has a mechanic called Spread the Love, where she'll cast a bunch of these barrels will fall from the ceiling. Now, these barrels can get destroyed by the cash cannon, which is a frontal there that you can see aimed at the tank. When a barrel gets exploded, it shoots out these waves as well. Then there's Burning Ricochet as well, which targets DPS players, I think. And the Burning Ricochet will also activate any barrels that it hits. And so you can destroy all these barrels with these mechanics. Any barrels that you don't destroy, I think after the second Burning Ricochet, will instead be destroyed by the boss during the intermission here, or maybe after this third cash cannon. The boss will cast, Let It Hail, jump back up onto her desk, and destroy all remaining barrels while also doing a bunch of damage to you and to your group. So you get a lot of dodging. I think on Mythic difficulty, the more barrels get destroyed at once, the more damage you take as well. So that's going to be something to look out for as it gets higher. Not something that was implemented in normal, though. And yeah, then it just repeats. So a very hectic, very dodge-intensive fight with some kind of quick thinking, decision-making, and very good flavor. This is, I think, one of my favorite fights in here. Really sweet amount of, like, dodging little Rashok waves and also planning out, kind of doing some quick, good decision-making about which barrels you want to break and where you want to position. And then there's a little note that you can read if you're a goblin or at least 25 skill in Inscription. There was also a flamethrower in this dungeon that you could use if you were gnome, mechanome, goblin, or 25 engineering. So a couple of profession abilities in this particular dungeon. I don't know exactly what they do just yet, though. I wasn't able to test on a character that had those things. Hope you've enjoyed this look at the Meadery here, the Cinderbrew Meadery. I think this is the coolest dungeon so far. We've only tested 2, but this is a fantastic dungeon. It's got just phenomenal flavor. The quality of the fights themselves, whether it's fun and M+, not something that I'm really equipped to make a determination on just yet, but I can certainly see the potential in a lot of the fights. And yeah, it's just, a flavor home run in here. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.